Hello and welcome to my studio. I'm just thinking that camera's a bit off, but that's from Thea trying to go to sleep behind the monitor. I am now wondering okay, I'm gonna maybe need to check audio synchronization at some point. Anyway, sorry, I'm a little bit distracted. I've got a green button on the Stream Deck. I managed last night to remember to change my microphone, the icon. So it's red when the microphone is muted, it's green when it's live. And I checked the microphone before I went live as well. So the microphone should be working okay and should be sounding okay, if not a little bit loud. I may turn the microphone down a little bit in the future. Not just at the moment though, because I want to monitor sound levels while I do that, and I'm not doing that live. Right, well, my hand. Still, this finger in particular, you can see it on screen there, it's pink. I'm still a little bit sore. That one, this one's now reasonably okay. That one is still painful. That one is a little bit. But we're going to see how we go. I know I won't be able to stand too much heat on it, but we'll see how we manage to work with that. So, I'll turn this. You know, the one thing you have to remember with pyrography tools is to turn them off when you finish with them. I didn't last night. So I come in. I didn't notice it this morning when I came through the studio, but around about 2 o'clock this afternoon I realised there was LEDs on it and it was lit and I'd been on for lots of hours. Not a good thing. And even though it's not hot enough to set things on fire, it will melt things like carpets if you've got nylon carpets, or mark the desk. I mean, that's after all what it's meant to do, is mark things. So good thing always to turn them off. I could do with something like, I don't know, home automation I guess, which will switch it off. Something I will maybe get around to next year, some home automation stuff. One thing I do want to have a play with is Node Red, as opposed to OpenHab, which is what I've currently got. Node Red does look as though it's going to be easier to handle, and the advantage that you've got with OpenHab is you can talk to it using things like the Amazon Echo while in the home. But we'll have to see if we can get around that. So at some point I shall spin up a virtual machine on the server and have a look at Node Red. Change my glasses. Rather than the OpenHab that I've got currently. And your OpenHab currently doesn't do much apart from manage my doorbell. It's there, ready, but it manages my doorbell. Which actually is the thing that we built once on stream, well, a sounder for it anyway. I know next year I do want to get some temperature sensors, temperature, humidity, maybe pressure sensors, so we can have one in each room of the house so we can monitor the temperature, before I get some radiator valves that I can control as well. Completely different subject, however. Right, this Feral Gibberer. That's basically all black as we come up there. I was thinking, once I get the 3D printer built, one of the things I'll have to do is make a mount for the Stream Deck so it sits just at the top of here. Just off the top here, so I've got it right in front of me. Which also strikes me as though what I could also do with is a small monitor here. I've got one as well, USB one. where I would be able to see chat. That'd be useful. Anyway, for the moment, I should be getting on with this. Yeah, okay, so we'll make that light as we go up there. Yeah, sort of. Something like that, and then something there. Comes like that around there. And then come down here, kind of across there. So just mapping out some. Yes, that's going to come down to that. Roughly. Okay. Let's turn this heat down now because I don't want it quite as hot for what I'm about to do. I do want it dark, but we'll I don't want quite as dark as that. Yeah, so maybe I'll stream next year, this calendar year. I'll be doing some soldering and building of electronic stuff. Just on the premise that I'm doing it anyway, I might as well stream it. I'm still hoping that next year's big thing though is some glass work. Glass studio. Whether that will actually come off or not, I don't know. It really depends also on whether I like doing it. Which I've yet to find out. That is also one of the big things on the cards for next year. Also, for some reason tonight, I kind of feel like I want to make another rug. A punch rug as opposed to a latch-up rug. Well, I've got a latch-up rug to finish, so that is something I ought to get on with as well. Finish off some projects would be a good thing. I've got a lot of them around, particularly cross-stitch. I've got a lot of cross-stitch sitting around. I guess one of the things I ought to do is put YouTube on, watch some videos, do some of the cross-stitch kits that I've got. Because I've got lots of them. Mainly because Lady Zara likes cross-stitch pictures, the cross-stitch pictures, and she hasn't got the patience to do cross-stitch. So I get to do them. You know, if I ever retire, then I'll have plenty to do. And then down around here, it's kind of, there's a Okay, so one of the things I've got done, just finished tonight, is finish uploading another block of videos. If you want to see any of the old broadcasts from Twitch that Twitch no longer have, then they are all being uploaded onto YouTube. And now almost all of the archive is uploaded. I think I've only about 20 more to go, which I will do this evening after the stream. Can't do it whilst I'm streaming. I don't have enough bandwidth for that, or rather the upload takes all the bandwidth anyway, no matter how much there is. So I will be uploading the final lot of archive, then we'll be up to date. Tonight's broadcast will not be uploaded until tomorrow though. I'm not allowed to, or rather I can upload it, I just can't make it live until this time tomorrow. Then hopefully I will have the opportunity at some time to make some specific videos for YouTube itself. So I'll be able to do some short videos for things like pyrography. Explain a little bit more about pyrography, what it is and how you do it, what sort of tools you need to do it with. The sort of thing that I was looking for when I first started doing pyrography and couldn't find. So I'll kind of make some videos to that I would have liked to have found when I was looking for them. And I'm looking at new crafts, for example, like a long time ago the pyrography, or things like the scraper board, these sorts of things. I do have a tendency to look around the internet, including YouTube, for videos which sort of explain about it. Not necessarily ones, well, I do look for ones that show it, but I do look for the broadcasters that explain it, and not the ones that sort of go, you know, this is how you do it, you've got to do it this way, it's the only way to do it type of thing, which you get sometimes. But the ones that sort of say, okay, you might have to do it this way, but this is why. So you get to know why things have to be done in a particular way, as opposed to just being told that you have to do them like that. Because I always ask the question when somebody, you know, on a video kind of says, so I'm asking a video by the way, you know, which is kind of pointless, but you know what I mean. It's, well, yeah, but why do I have to do it like that? Why does it have to be that way? They might be right, you know. It's but it's good to know why it is. Then you understand it. Yeah, it has to be a bit darker, a bit too light. So I'm hoping to be able to do a few of those. Start with pyrography, it's the easiest one to explain. But then some of the other things. Like the scraper board, I guess. What else? Bushing I could do. Because again, I was kind of looking, when I started that, I was looking for, what do I need? Why should I choose something in particular? Chainmail, don't know whether chainmail is a good one. I mean, there's a one-off video maybe. What else do we do around here? Glass engraving. Yeah, we could do something on glass engraving on the tools. On the simple engraving, because you can get into glass cutting as well, using copper wheels and things like that, which, you know, when you get cut glass, that's when you do things like that, and they get used for what's called deep engraving as well. The sort of stuff I do is shallow engraving, and that's partly because I use sheets of glass which are shallow. You can't do deep engraving on shallow glass because you break through it. Yeah, that is about what I'm looking for down there. Do we need to... That's okay about that, yeah. I need to go fairly dark under there and light around there. So let's do this lighter bit stuff here. This lighter bit stuff is dark, but it's lighter than the area around it. Hello there. You've got the golden version of this. Have they released? I thought you mentioned it. Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I thought you mentioned they were doing. Oh, they're releasing them on the 7th, and I looked at the date on the computer, and it's the 7th. So I take it the golden version is good. You know, I've got no idea about these things. I'm here. And so far my hand is holding up quite nicely on my fingers, which is good. I'm managing to keep my fingers out of the heat. Yeah, it's one thing having pretzel locks and Moobot and things posting in chat, but I see the chat move at the corner of my eye, but then I've got to look across and read it, and you just go, oh, it's only pretzel announcing the next song. Gotta be careful I don't get to the point where I just assume that's what it is. Because then I'll be totally ignoring chat, which isn't a good thing. So, not long before I stop polluting your timeline, Wolfie, I only have another 20-ish videos to upload, and then we'll be up to date, and then it'll be just one a day. Well, one-ish a day. I do hope I'll be able to get the opportunity to actually make some videos directly for YouTube in the future. That's a bit light, I think. It's not too bad. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Something's catching on there, so let's give it a clean. I just clean I think people wonder, how do I clean a pyrographic tip? Tissue paper or kitchen paper. And I just rub it on there like that. As you can see, I'm not setting fire to it. I can apply pyrography to this paper, by the way. There we go. So you can do pyrography on paper if you wish to do so. It's an interesting thing. You've got to work with lower heat levels because the paper being thinner will carbonise really quickly, and if it does carbonise then you get a whole new paper. But you can totally do it on thick paper or card. You can actually do it on most organic surfaces. So card, paper, reeds, wood, eggshells, these sorts of things. Although there's not a lot of stuff on an eggshell to actually change colours, so I gather it's quite difficult to do, but possible. Might be something I'll try one of these days. One of the things I want to try doing is getting either something like an ostrich egg, or perhaps an emu egg that's been blown and clean, and then you can instead of engrave, you can carve it. Use the high-speed carvers. You can carve it. You can either cut it, so you can cut filigrees and all sorts of shapes in it, or you can actually, especially with, I think it's the emu, one of the eggs is multicoloured. It looks like a green egg. It stands a fair size, but it looks like a green egg, and as you shave away some of the surface it gradually goes blue, so you can get a range of colours, and if you put a light inside it shines through those colours, and I keep wanting to have a go at that. Don't know what I'd do, just cut some holes in it I guess, but that is kind of one of the things I would like to have a play with, just to try it, just to see. One of the things I've got in the drawer is some targa nuts as well. They're for carving. No idea how to go about carving them or anything, but when I was shopping for some wood, I came across them and thought, they look interesting. I quite often will get crafts or material for crafts on the basis that looks fun to play with. This around here is also going to be quite dark. So how are HS's there? Oh yeah, Hearthstone. How's things going with you, Wolfie? It looks like Thursday's going to be a quiet night for streaming tonight. No go across. Okay, that's light, that's dark. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. So, sorry I wasn't around for very long on the stream last night. I streamed for about 3/4 of an hour, something like that, before it just got a bit too much. Did the heat and the pain in my fingers, so I did wrap it up a little bit early. I burnt my fingers yesterday, for those people that don't know. Not on Pyrography. It was opening a container that had been in the oven and forgetting that there would be steam inside of it. Hot, wet steam, not a good thing. It burnt the back of my fingers quite a bit. And just even bending them and was not very comfortable, to say the least, and any heat that was coming off of here was just really painful. So I did give it up after a little while. I tried though. Okay, not a problem, Wolfie. You enjoy the new decks. I'll just carry on with pyrographying. Not quite sure what that word would be. This particular one. I'm fairly sure I'd rather render it in pyrography than I would do play it. Okay, that's the bottom end of that card. Let's come up into this, fill in this area here. And we'll have almost got half the card complete. So I keep turning it round for those people that kind of wonder why. It's just because certain angles are easier to get at. If I'm working to a line particularly, it's easier to see with the toe of the tool where the line is, rather than trying to guess where the heel of it is. The other thing is it's just more comfortable. It's closer to where I am. By spinning this round, I don't have to reach across the wood. So no rules, that's you have to keep it the right way up. So if you want to spin it around, spin it around. That sounded rather like a jet engine starting up just then on that music. Yeah, I thought it would be, approaching Nirvana. Was I watching? Rang Home Designs. Yesterday I think it was, I was watching them. Doing using perler beads in a different way. So using them as actually beads rather than as what you'd normally do with perler, and sort of put them in a pattern and then apply heat to melt the plastic into I was going to say a glued up mass, but you melt the plastic so it bonds. They're actually using a thread and making. I sort of thought in my head as a mat then, but sort of a large image, if you like, using the beads, sewing them into the same way you use small beads, but using large perler beads. So you've got quite a large image, I guess, because of that. One of the things they were doing on the stream though was listening to some really relaxing chilled out music, which was a YouTube channel, which they very kindly shared the channel. I can't put it on, I'm afraid, because I don't have a license to broadcast it. But it was really relaxing music. I have it bookmarked on my works computer, so that if I'm having one of those days at work, I can put on this really chilled, relaxing music. Not enough to make you go to sleep, but certainly enough to sort of just slow everything down and make it more relaxed. Yes, if you're around, she broadcasts afternoon UK time. She's in Sweden, so I guess it's later for her than it is for me. But yeah, really good to watch this sewing and bringing together sort of a picture out of furler beads. It kind of it's interesting to me because I love pixel-based art, which is done. And that's what essentially this was with perler beads. It's kind of a pixel art without actually sort of being I guess art for the sake of art is kind of what I was thinking of then. It was actually a sort of a practical type thing. You know, it's a nice large image. I'm not explaining what I was thinking there really well, but it's a good thing. Check it out if you get the opportunity. Okay, so now I need to fill this bit in before we move into the top part of the card, but I'm going to have a drink. I might come back and make that a bit darker. It looks a bit light, but yeah, there is some detail under there, but we're not going to do it. It's my interpretation, and I'm the artist, so I get to choose. Detail in shadow, in deep shadow is okay, but ultimately in a way kind of pointless because you don't really look that closely in deep shadow. Yeah, I should get lighter as I go over there. I'm not going to get lighter as I go over there. So I'm just concentrating a little bit just to make sure I get a smooth line. And as always, corners are a little bit awkward. It can be difficult sometimes just to get right into that corner that you're trying to colour in like that. Now then. I don't usually want the real deepest blacks. That's the point at which you're carbonising the wood. And so it sort of turns into like a black crystal-y type of surface, which kind of is very sticky, sticks to the bottom of the tool and tends to scratch the rest of the work, so you do have to clean your tool. It generally doesn't look very good either when you carbonise stuff, you go that deep in colour. So I tend to avoid it. It sort of looks wrong. Can't easily describe what it is. It certainly sort of doesn't look. It looks tend to be matte. The wood surface goes very, very pliable at that point, almost like sort of a soft putty or clay. So it sort of moves around very easily, and you often get sort of weird tooling marks in it because of that. So I can tend to prefer to be just this side of it, but occasionally, just occasionally like there, I need it just to add that little bit extra depth into the shadow. Yeah, that needs a cooler tool to do that. I've just noticed a slight mark there that I'd like to get rid of, but to do that I need a cooler tool. This one is too hot, it would make a too dark a mark. So taking my time over this, I'm trying to make it nice and smooth so I don't get sort of tooling marks. You also, some of the tooling marks are because, as I mentioned, the wood sort of gets soft as you cook it, and the surface goes really sort of pliable, and you can press down with the pyrographic tool and you can actually sort of indent the surface and create surface textures. I do that with I'm doing cat fur or hair, maybe something I'll do with a gibberer, to sort of give yourself a little bit of extra texture than you can perhaps maybe get directly with just pyrography on its own. And but sometimes in large areas like this you don't necessarily want that. You want a nice smooth colour that sort of looks smooth, as opposed to looking like it's had holes cut out of it. Now the best way to avoid sort of tooling marks from sort of the wood plastic effect of the wood is firstly not to press down too hard, but also to actually use as much of the tool as you can in terms of pressing it flat down on the wood, as opposed to just using the very tip of it or something like that. couple of areas there that need a little bit more pyrography just to colour them darker. Okay, I guess we should do the jewel now. But just for the minute, I'm going to have some tea. And whilst I have to push that button, see what happens. I've not seen him around for a while, see what happens. Yeah, that's what I thought. Chris, he used to do sculptures using pipe cleaners. Well, they're known as pipe cleaners, but I guess they're bigger than that, so I don't actually know what they're called. I can't remember what he called them, but they're sort of like wire with material embedded in the wire, so it looks all fluffy, and he makes giant, literally giant, three-dimensional sculptures out of them. These things that sort of bend easily, so easily that you wouldn't think they'd stand themselves up more than anything else, and yet he sort of does make. I think one other thing was a giraffe, stood on its own four legs, it's about this tall. Amazing sort of sculptures. So I'm not sure he keeps seeing. I've seen him pop up one or two times, but he seems to have been off air for a while now. Right. Yeah, Twitch is really quiet tonight. So I'm talking to myself. I know I'm talking to myself, but yeah. Right. Let's turn this down again. And cool the tip down. So we can do some work here without suddenly getting real dark lines that I don't want. We essentially got sort of, yeah. I do need to extend out that extend that black line that's around here just a little bit, make it slightly fuzzy. We'll do that in a moment. Yeah, we're gonna quite a white highlight here, so let's see if we can leave it white. Colour the rest of this jewel in, and then we can shade over it again as well. So I've left a little bit sort of natural wood colour. That'll act as a highlight. Yeah, we've got a sort of a highlight around here as well, so we'll just darken off of the edge there slightly just to include the highlight. taper that off slightly because it's a teardrop shape as this. And yeah, that's not bad. So let's just now see if we can just fluffify, yeah, that word, fluffify this dark edge just very slightly, just to give it, it's quite a hard edge at the moment. I should perhaps have done it, actually I did do it, I was just thinking then I should perhaps have done it with this tool rather than the pen, but I possibly did do it with this tool. That looks better. I'll come around that corner in a second. So just a real fine edge of brown as opposed to the really dark brown that's there. So just what I'm really just doing is taking off the sharp edge on this inner edge. Because this is a jewel, it's sort of sat in a setting, I guess. And the idea being, I guess, that when it's in the setting, there's like a stone setting, there's going to be a tiny gap around it which is black. Right. So that's, yeah, we've got quite a dark area underneath this ribbon here. Now this wants to be quite, in here wants to be quite dark. Not quite as dark as this black around here, but still quite dark. Okay, fill this area in. So there's an outline. Well, sometimes it's easier just to colour everything in the outline colour and then go back over the inner bit again, making it darker, rather than it is trying to sort of just leave a bit and come back afterwards. So you're always working lighter to darker in some ways here, because you can make things darker. So if I wanted stripes, for example, I'd do the whole thing in one colour and then put the darker stripes over the top. Depending on how wide they are, if you're studying thin ones, then that's the sort of thing I do. And kind of what I'm going to do here really is colour this in. Yeah, that's quite a nice rich colour. It's only a colour I'm liking the look of, so we'll try and maintain that colour. Yes, I'll just tails off across the top there. Again, just trying to keep that nice smooth curve, staying away from the jagged lines basically. And now then, in the middle of that, see if we can do a bit of detail that's in the image. It's just a dark, a bit like that. So this is one of those occasions where the cooler tool means I've got more working time. If this was as hot as I've been doing some of the rest of this, I'd have to do this particular area really quickly, with a chance that I'm going to not take as much care as I should be doing and things like that. Because I'm not using the tool that hot, I have this opportunity. As you can see, it's not going immediately dark. So I have the opportunity to adjust the colour if I want by going over it again. Still no leeway forever here. It's permanent. Once the pyrography goes down, that's it. And in some of these areas like this, there isn't really any opportunity to sort of mask it or cheat, or however you want to describe it, to make the mistake less visible. Wants to be a little bit darker, I think, so let's just go over it again. There we go. So that's the bottom end of the card. Now we move up So what does that look like on the output? That's not looking too bad. Right, so nearly. Let's do the patterning around here. We'll leave that centre section. I wonder if I should actually do the jewel. Yeah, let's do some of the jewel. This one here is kind of a lot thinner. In actual fact, what we've got there is we've got another shadow just over the top there, which we get sort of down here as well, but it's getting a little bit darker down here when I do that. Yeah, let's now duplicate it as well. Just the way the light source actually strikes the jewel. I mean, it's all fantasy light sourcing here. I mean, this wasn't a real life object, so. But it's certainly been drawn as though it was. That's interesting. I've copied what's on the reference image. This doesn't actually go down to the point. Okay, so we'll colour that in now, and yeah, we'll kind of leave lightish air. So let's do a light colouring first. Again, following sort of the lines, so to speak. So sort of radial lines here away from the centre of the jewel, from the peak, somewhere around here. You know, sometimes some of this sort of thing can test your skill to stopping exactly in the right place. Okay, so I've got that in. Now let's recolour that. So we add in the shading. And we'll have a little bit darker, just all the way down that sort of edge there. One panel. One down. 5 more to go. Yeah, not very wise in that, but we're gonna we're gonna make it dark. Right under there. And just fade away from that dark line just a touch, just to soften it off like that. Okay. Yeah, actually that wants to come a bit further that way, but that's okay. We'll make that dark bit just a little bit wider. Sort of looks now. It's good to actually, with your pyrography by the way, practice stopping at a particular line like that, so that when you want to colour something like this in, you're able to do it without sort of going over the edge of the line, because then it just looks sort of a little bit tatty really when that happens. So what do I just do there? Go over the line. Never mind, there's a black edge just around there, so in this particular case I get away with it. And then we'll colour in the rest of this. But lighter. Now you do have to be careful because here I'm stopping, as I mentioned, right at that line. But what I've got to be careful is not to actually stop there. What I'm going to do is lift the pen off the wood at that point, so that what I don't get is I don't get the blob effect down the edge, which is what would happen. Same with actually starting from the line, or position by the way is the same. So the effect I'm doing or using here is a bit like an aircraft doing a touch and go. It lands, takes off without ever stopping. And that's kind of how you apply pyrography when you want to go to a particular line and stop at a line, is you take off. That means, because if you stop, you get more heat applied than when it's moving. So if you lift off, you applied the same heat up until the point where you lift off. If you stop, then it's only a fraction of a second, but a lot of heat, relatively speaking, gets put into that one spot, making it go darker. Sometimes the subtlest of shadings can make a big difference to how something looks. So I just put a really a really slight difference in contrast sort of line across there, which you may or may not actually sort of see in the image itself, but it kind of just, you know, your brain notices it, but you don't. And that sometimes is enough just to sort of hint at a shape or something like that, which is enough for your brain to latch onto it and go, ah, yes. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, kind of a darkish edge, yeah. But just in slightly. Right. Talk to myself a lot whilst I'm doing things like pyrography. Telling myself what I'm doing, and of course, because I'm telling myself and I'm thinking at the same time, I quite often use shorthand. So I'll only half say things. And the mic's live, so you're hearing me half say things. So if you do hear sort of weird half words or half sentences, it's just because I'm discussing what I'm about to do with myself. And that line itself is a little bit thin, so I'm going to just extend it out slightly. And we're filling this area here, not as dark though, this is kind of just a shadow, well that's a shadow as well, but just sort of a shade down. That's a slightly a bit too bright, but what we'll do is just give it a little bit more colour, just to knock the brightness off. Like that. That's coming along quite nicely, is that? Now this upper left quadrant here is quite dark. Yeah, apart from that edge there, it is quite dark. Okay, just whilst I'm doing this, just remind anybody that's watching that tomorrow night there'll be no stream. There's another family event going on, so can't actually stream whilst that's going on. So I will be back on Saturday evening, Saturday and Sunday. Hopefully anyway, and then next week again Monday to Friday, no streams Monday to Friday. I am working away from home all week, so I'm not able to stream from that location. I'm certainly not going to be taking things like pyrography equipment and stuff like that. And the computer that I will have with me will not be capable of streaming. So you may see me around, but I'll be watching videos like the rest of you, because streaming won't be possible. So then I'll then be back streaming again on the following weekend as well. But at that point then I'm on holiday. Until the new year, I've got a whole 2 weeks off. Trouble is, I know that I'm going to come back to an awful lot of work. Immediately I'm back in work in the new year, but never mind. Now the top end of this is quite dark, yes, I want to make it about as dark as that. Roughly following the edges. So. And make basically a triangular shape around, leaving just sort of a highlight in the middle. What is that? Oh no, that's not. I was thinking that's a bit light, but it's not really. It's the there's a real light source on that, so. Alright, so look at the jewel. Oh well, like it, we'll keep that. Right, next thing is around here. Yeah, what I'm sticking my tongue out. I don't know why we do that. Watch David Jones, the EEV blog, from time to time, and that's one thing he comments on. Engineers, you just got to get the right tongue angle. When you're concentrating on stuff, trying to align something or something like that electronically, you've got to get the right tongue angle, otherwise it doesn't work. Now I'm doing the inside edge, yeah, so that's going to come around to about there. And then we're going to come more or less up, yeah, sort of straight. Up here, like this. Okay, and then we've got a sort of shapes in here. That's a black channel, that's the edge, yeah, so that's the grey channel with black in the middle of here. Sometimes you've got to concentrate on what what's where in terms of colouring and things. I've got to remember that this is black in the middle of here. Yeah, I'm going to come up there about like that. Now this wants to be dark enough to hide the outline that I've just put down on the wood. Because of course it's not outlined, that's just kind of the edge. And the edge isn't any darker than the rest of it. It's a bit like a rabbit somehow stood up. Of head, ears, sort of arms and feet and legs and ow. I'm going to fill this in, then I'll turn the heat up and do the black area, and then we'll do the lighter area around. Well, actually, I may colour it first before I turn the heat up and do the black area. just while the tool is at this cooler temperature. Okay. Yeah, let's fill this in now. Actually, I do want that a little bit hotter for this. The heat doesn't exactly cap how hot the heat of the tool doesn't exactly cap the colour that you get. Capping means to limit the colour that you get, because it's not exactly the absolute temperature. It's the quantity of heat. So you can use a lower heat and hold it in place for longer, and it will go brown. It'll go darker brown the longer you leave it in that place. So it's not the absolute heat, it is actually, you know, the quantity, sort of heat times time, I suppose. And so you can get really dark areas with low heat just by keeping the pen in that place for a long time. So I suppose that's an illustration of the fact that I'm cooking the wood, because the same thing when you cook food, of course. The longer you cook it for, the more burnt it becomes. And again, it's not necessarily got anything to do with how hot the pan is that you're using, or the frying pan, or whatever. It's purely time. Not too bothered about going over the inner edge, because that's going to go a lot darker.
to keep buzzing? What's the cure for that? Nothing. Keep on until the world starts rocking. What's the cure for that? Nothing. Still trying to find a way to keep buzzing. What's the cure for that? Nothing. Keep on until the world starts rocking.
Right, so that's that edge. Do it now, turn it up. And we'll fill in. Now this is where I do have to be careful not to go over the edge because it's dark, and if I go over the edge you'll see it. So any of the lighter area that's gone over the edge, I can sort of just cover it over with this darker stuff. If the darker stuff goes over the edge, I can't cover it over with lighter stuff, and it doesn't work that way. I'm forever going to think of this as a stood-up bunny rabbit. But that wasn't the intention, it was just following shapes. Right, I need to make sure I keep my tool quite up on its toes. Because if the heel gets too close to the wood, it will actually obviously cook that area as well, because the heel is hot. In fact, it's hotter because it's not on the wood. So if it accidentally touches, for example, it will cause a black blob. And I'm just letting my fingers cool down because there's a lot of heat comes off the end of here straight above my fingers when you're holding it like this and trying to hold the pen vertically. The heat of course comes straight up the pen, straight above your fingers. Now you're doing little short strokes like this because it helps keep the tip hot. You put the tool down on the wood conducts the heat away, that's why it's cooking. And if I keep this tool on the wood, it cools down. If I lift it off, there's an opportunity to heat up again. And I get a darker line. And that's one thing I have to be a little bit careful of when I'm reading chat and talking back, because I have a tendency not to work while I'm reading, while I'm talking to chat. So what can happen is the tool on whatever temperature heats up because the wood isn't conducting the heat away. So the instant I put it down, instant black mark, not what I wanted. So I always have to remember that and either deal with it by blowing on the end of the tool, which you'll see me do sometimes to cool it down, or work really fast the instant I put it down. So I sort of scrub fairly quickly across the area to spread the heat out, the sudden heat dump from the tool out, and then it heats up sort of as normal.